by yourself is almost impossible.
We're basically paying to breathe at this point.
I'm 30 years old. I'm single. I live at home.
Young people are staying at home and living with their parents at record numbers, myself included. Today, we're going to be talking about the realities of the current landscape that young people are facing, hearing out different perspectives on whether staying at home is a good or bad thing, and if you find yourself in this position, how to take advantage of it.
When is too late to live at home?
Once you are in your mid-20s and still living at home, there's a problem. You should have graduated. Even if you did a second degree, you should be, by 25 or 26, gainfully employed and have some semblance of what you're doing in that stage of life. If you are on salary, I just don't think you should be living at home with mom and dad. I get there's rare situations, there's cultural differences, there's ultra-high cost of living areas, but I still would say your quality of life is going to be better if you move out and get your own place, even if you financially suffer a little bit.
What if you have debt? You're 27. You graduated with a master's, you got a PhD with debt, and you could live at home for 3 years. You're 30 years old, but you could wipe out all the debt.
I don't think the stunted growth is worth the savings.
Really?
That person at 27 to 30, probably not going to have a girlfriend, probably not going to get married. And that's just anecdotal from what I've seen on the Ramsey show. It's always a guy who's just been babied by the parents. You stay as long as you want and just pay off your debt as you can, and it slows them down.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack off this video. I understand what he's saying about the type of people, the type of habits that you develop when living at home. He does mention that his evidence is anecdotal, and I'll explain why I think it is extremely anecdotal. This guy is a host on the Dave Ramsey show. People call in who need help with their finances. They either have a question about finances or need help to get out of a poor financial position. It's basically a financial lifeline. So to generalize everybody who lives at home with their parents into one subcategory based on the evidence that you're seeing on the receiving end of a financial lifeline, that just doesn't make sense. Because you know who's not calling the Dave Ramsey show? People like me, who live at home, save a lot of money, invest, have goals, who are working towards their goals. Do I need to call Dave Ramsey? No. So of course the evidence that he's seeing on the show leads him to believe this, because people like me aren't calling in. People like me do exist. I'm here. And on top of that, I have a girlfriend. So like, I'm not entirely disagreeing with him though, because I know just as many people like me as people that he outlines in that video. There are plenty of people that are babied by their parents who don't work towards financial goals, unemployed. So there are lots of people who live at home and take advantage of that luxury and don't work towards anything. But again, his anecdotal evidence is just simply that, anecdotal. 28, making more money than my mom. Still at home. I'm not paying $2K a month for a studio. I wouldn't want to buy a studio apartment if I was 28, making good income. I'd want to save up, buy something better. So staying at home helps achieve that financial goal. It just makes sense.
Household, it is a custom to not move out until...
Child, I'm still living at home. This life is hard, it's expensive, and it's ghetto. I can't stand the way people try to make it seem like, oh, you're past your teenage years and you're still living at home. Yes, these jobs don't pay good enough to even afford a 1-bed, 1-bath. And that's not including every single other bill and tab you have to pay. We're basically paying to breathe at this point. A lot of these jobs want you to be educated, and then even when you are educated, they still pay you some bullshit amount. Even though some young people, some 20, 21-year-olds, even though some of them may be well off financially, that's literally not the case for most people that age. A lot of us are struggling and trying to still find our identities. So if you think that we're going to be financially stable by the age of 20, you are absolutely ludicrous. Life doesn't get easier. You just learn how to understand things better.
Baby, that video went viral and they drugged me across every single platform. And some of y'all may be like, well, Kaylin, what did you say wrong? Well, I don't know. People dissected that video and everything I had on in it. People was talking about, oh, she talking about this, but she wearing a Gucci bonnet. When have y'all ever went into Gucci and seen Gucci selling bonnets? I bought that bonnet off TikTok for like $12. Oh, maybe she can't afford to do this because she be going to the nail shop. Y'all see she got her nails done. Those nails were press-on nails that were like $10 from Walmart.
Here's the funny thing that happens when people talk about money. They make assumptions. I do it. The people who are probably going to leave comments are going to do it. We don't really understand the true depths of their finances because we don't understand all the angles. And so people just start making things up in their head, making up assumptions. Can't afford rent because she's got this Gucci bonnet on that she bought on TikTok for $12. People will look at you and judge your lifestyle and judge this and judge that. Everybody's allowed to spend their money differently. And listen, I'm also not excusing people who like go spend $3,000 on their credit card to go on a vacation that they can't afford and then complain that the cost of living is super high. That has nothing to do with the cost of living. You're just bad with money. But this woman is a prime example of jumping to conclusions, making assumptions, and painting this picture of this person's life without their input.
Wow, you know, them $10 nails and that $12 bonnet really did put a halt on my progress in getting a house or an apartment or a car, paying this bill or paying that bill. Be for real. And now I'm bringing that conversation right back around. That video was before having 2 dozen eggs was a flex. That video was before gas prices shooting up. That video was before rent being increased. Since I made that video, things have gotten more expensive.
People will try and tell you that spending money on these small things that cost you very few dollars is the reason why you'll never be rich. I think we've heard gurus say it enough times that we all kind of believe it at some sub-level, that buying coffee from Starbucks gatekeeps you from financial freedom. I'm here to tell you that is not true. We all need to have a section of our income that's there guilt-free for us to just spend on the things that we enjoy. And for everybody, that's something different. For some people, they may not care about Starbucks, but they care about going to Europe, so they'll stash money away in a savings account every time they get paid, so that eventually they can go on that trip to Europe. Guilt-free. But even if it is Starbucks coffee, that's their guilt-free spending. There's nothing wrong with that. And so long as you're contributing to your financial goals in a meaningful way outside of that play money, who cares what you do with that money? Really? This whole notion of, oh, if you spend money on this, you'll never be rich. I'm tired of it.
Things got more expensive, but ain't nobody being paid more. Let's be for real. Say y'all expected 20-year-olds to have their own shit. They own place to live, they own car, this, that, and the third. For the most part, we all graduate when we're like 17 or 18. If we're going to go and get an education that's going to pay well, we're going to have to be in school for a few years. That goes past the age of 20. Please tell me how that's realistic. You have a lot of adults that are even past the age of 20 still at home. Because at the end of the day, age does not really matter. It's hard for everybody. I do not judge people who stay at home. I don't care if they're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Not everybody is in a situation or predicament to where they can afford to pay certain things. And it's not to say that all of these people are lazy and have no ambition, because truth be told, you don't know what these people got. These people could be sitting on $200,000 and you don't even know that. At the end of the day, what somebody else chooses to do is not your damn business.
You really do have no idea what people have in their bank account or what they don't. We love coming up with stories, making assumptions about people, painting pictures of their lives that may or may not be true. That's the human condition. That's what the brain does. You can't help it. I can't help it. That's just what happens. And this is why it's important to just focus on yourself. Just focus on what you got in your bank account and where you want to go. And while comparison can be helpful sometimes, it can also lead you astray. Just focus on your own bag, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I moved out at 26 and it's been all downhill from there. Do not move out until you can afford to do so, period. That's basically where I'm at. I live in a extremely high cost of living area that's been deemed almost impossible for young people to buy into, and I'm staying at home to save up enough so that when I do move out, I can actually afford to live on a monthly basis and not be at risk of not making my mortgage payment or something like that. I want to set myself up in a position of strength rather than weakness.
Yeah, see, here's the thing, right? Come here. At this point, there is no longer an age limit to staying with parents. Does that make sense? Right? I know before it was like, oh, once we turn like 20 or so, try to move out of your parents' house. The way that life is going, that is quite literally almost impossible at this point. People who claim they don't live with their parents anymore, come here. They probably have roommates somewhere else, right? And living with your parents or living with roommates, both are pretty uncomfortable. The only difference is, at least if you live with your parents, somebody's going to say that they love you at the end of the night. Well, for most of us. But you know what I'm saying, right? At this point, living by yourself is almost impossible. Anybody who does live by themselves, they either are working so much that they can't even enjoy living by themselves, or somebody is helping them pay those bills, because at this point, it's impossible.
There's something that people aren't talking about when it comes to people living on their own. In 2020, there was an event that happened that struck two very important trends. Number one, the cost of everything got way more expensive, and a large percentage of people were sent back home to their parents because they either couldn't afford to live on their own anymore or didn't have a reason to. I fall in the camp of not having a reason to. I looked at the situation and went, why would I pay rent to go live near a school that I can't even attend in person? So I broke my lease and then moved back home with my parents. and I've been here ever since. But to me, it's crazy that people aren't looking at that moment in time, because so many people who are in the age bracket of, let's say, 26 to 18, they all got hit at a really important time of their life in becoming an adult by this crazy once-in-a-lifetime event that stunted the growth of young people all over the world. So yeah, based on what's happened in the last 4 years, I don't think there should be an age limit on how long you spend at home with your parents, because truth be told, a lot of this is outside of our own control.
Watch how crazy perspective is. So, I'm 30 years old. I'm single. I live at home. I just spent the last year like running around trying to figure out stuff, and I'm back at home. My job is hard. All my friends are getting married and engaged, and I'm not. Life just every day feels the same somehow, sometimes. And sometimes I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Or I am 30 years old, you guys, and I live at home because I just spent the last year traveling around and doing whatever I wanted, meeting so many people, having so much flexibility, and now I get to live at home and try and save to buy my own place and spend this quality time with my family that I'll never have again. I haven't met my person yet, which is so cool because I still get to fall in love for the first time with someone new, and I will just love this person and they'll be so great for me because I've just chose not to settle, and that's so exciting. And my job is hard, but it's rewarding, and I'm so lucky to have like a remote job that's flexible, work with amazing people, and I believe in what we're doing. And I get to go to beautiful walks every day because I have a healthy body, and I have an amazing community where I live that I'm working really hard to build, and that's pretty cool, don't you think? Love you guys, bye.
The words you speak become the house you live in might have just changed my life. I don't know how I can stress this enough. Perspective is seriously everything. What you say about yourself, what you say about your situation, determines your situation. Your brain is incredibly powerful, and it can make all sorts of stuff up, positive or negative, and it's your choice to choose what you believe. Do you want to believe the negative things that your brain tells you, or do you want to believe the positive things? This is an incredibly powerful and important video. It's easy to get down on yourself or feel embarrassed for living at home, or think that your dating options are limited, or this or that. And while that may be partially true, is it fully true? Why are you bought in on the idea that things are impossible? You can do it, so choose to do it instead of choosing to feel bad about it. Easier said than done, but you get the idea. She also touches on a point that I think is really powerful. The day you move out permanently, you can mark that day as the day that you've now seen 90% of the time you will ever spend with your parents. People will say, oh, I'll live close, I'll visit often, but will they really? What is often? Birthdays, Christmas. If you start your own family, how often are you going to go see your parents? What I'm trying to get at is, yes, staying at home with your parents may feel restrictive or that you don't have certain freedoms or whatever, but it's also a beautiful thing that you should cherish. You don't know what you have until it's gone. And when you move out, you're going to realize that you miss your siblings, if you have any. You're going to miss your mom or your dad. The grass is always greener on the other side. That is a realization I had to come to when I moved out and when I stayed on my own for a little bit. I loved the freedom of being alone, but also the loneliness caught up to me. I was so used to being able to go randomly walk into my brother's room and spark up a conversation about nothing, but I couldn't do that living on my own. So just make sure that you are cherishing the time you spend when you live with your parents, because when you do eventually move out, you gain a lot of nice things in your life, but you also lose a lot of things, and the things you lose are the intangibles, the feelings of love and comfort that come with living with your parents and your family. And I know everyone's living conditions are different, and their relationships with their family and parents are also different. So if it doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you, and I understand.
I really feel like we need to talk about living at home in your 20s. When I was in college, I was the last person in the whole world to ever think I would move home. I swore on my life that I would never in a million years spend more than a week living at home again. I moved to Spain when I graduated university for a year and I taught English, came home for a month to apply for jobs, and then moved to New York. I ended up living at home for almost a year and a half. Yes, during that time I did travel and go live in Mexico and other places for a few months at a time, but essentially I was living at home when I came back. While this is not what I wanted to do, it did benefit me in a lot of ways. One of those ways is that it allowed me to buy assets which helped grow my wealth. So even if I don't have an income, I still have those assets which are building my wealth. So if you're living at home, don't be ashamed. Honestly, be proud of yourself and use it strategically.
There's something funny about this video to me, and that's even she was bought in on the stigma around staying at home with your parents. But once she ended up in that position, she realized how beneficial it was. I think a lot of people fear this like phantom idea of staying with their parents and how terrible it'll be. And again, I understand that for some people, their relationships with their family just can't be fixed. If the reason you refuse to move back home is because you know that your mental health will be absolutely destroyed by staying with your family, none of this applies to you. But if you're the kind of person that has loving parents but thinks that it's just going to ruin you anyway, I encourage you to challenge that line of thinking. Because like this girl has said, there are some incredible benefits to staying at home, and you can use it as a launch pad to further your life in a lot of ways. You can start building your wealth by investing in the stock market, buying assets that appreciate so that your money is now working for you, and you can use that along with traditional savings to build up a down payment for a house. If you enjoyed this video and are still watching at this point, why have you not subscribed? Be sure to do that, and when you do, drop a like as well. And if you want to watch a video about how shrinkflation is out of control, click this video here.